Kim Tae-ho wiped the grease from his hands with an old cloth as he stared at the broken terraforming unit that filled most of his small workshop. The machine was twice his height and covered in warning labels in 3 different languages. Steam hissed from a crack in its side panel while coolant dripped steadily onto the concrete floor. The colony of New Busan stretched outside his workshop windows. Prefab housing units dotted the red landscape under the pale orange sky. Transport ships came and went from the landing pads every few hours, bringing more settlers and supplies. The war had been over for 6 months now, and people were trying to build new lives on the outer rim worlds. Tae-ho had opened his repair shop here because he thought business would be good. New colonies needed lots of equipment fixed. But most of the settlers were poor refugees who could barely afford food, let alone expensive repairs. The wealthy corporations brought their own repair crews from the inner worlds. He walked to his small desk and looked at the bills stacked there. Rent for the workshop space, parts suppliers demanding payment, power bills, food costs. The numbers did not look good. If things did not improve soon, he would have to close the shop and find work somewhere else. The terraforming unit belonged to the colony administration. It was supposed to process the soil and make it better for growing crops. But it had broken down 3 days ago, and Park Jinwoo, the colony administrator, could only pay half the usual rate for repairs. Even half payment was better than no payment. Tae-ho opened the access panel on the machine and peered inside. The problem was clear. The main processing core had overheated and damaged several circuit boards. He would need to replace 3 expensive components and recalibrate the whole system. The work would take at least 2 days if he worked alone. That was the real problem. Everything took too long when you worked alone. While he spent 2 days fixing one machine, 3 other jobs waited. Customers got angry and took their business elsewhere. He needed help, but could not afford to hire anyone at normal wages. He sat down at his desk and opened his computer. The Galactic Job Network appeared on the screen. Thousands of job postings from across human space scrolled past. Most wanted experienced workers with advanced certifications. The pay offered was usually terrible, especially on the frontier worlds. Tae-ho started typing his own job posting. He stopped and deleted it 3 times. How do you ask for help when you can barely afford to pay rent? How do you attract good workers to a dead-end world like New Busan? Finally, he wrote something simple and honest, seeking experienced technician for equipment repair. Room and board provided. Honest work, fair pay. Species irrelevant. He read it over twice. The last line had been an afterthought. Lots of job postings specified humans only or certain alien species only. Tae-ho had served in the war and fought alongside soldiers from a dozen different worlds. Good people came in all shapes and sizes. Besides, he could not afford to be picky. He posted the ad and closed the computer. Back to work on the terraforming unit. The first response came 6 hours later, then another. By the end of the day, 12 different beings had replied to his posting. Most were humans looking for temporary work. A few were aliens, but their messages were hard to understand through the translation software. Tae-ho was getting ready to close the shop when he heard footsteps outside. Heavy footsteps that made the floor vibrate slightly. He looked up from his workbench as the front door opened. The being that entered had to duck to fit through the doorway. Her skin looked like polished gray stone with darker veins running through it. She wore simple work clothes that had been patched many times. Her eyes were deep blue and very tired. "I am Hana," she said in careful human standard language. "I saw your job posting. I can fix machines." Tae-ho set down his tools. "You are Corvin," he said. He had never seen one in person but recognized the species from military briefings during the war. "Yes." Hana nodded. "My husband was engineer before the war. He taught me much about machines before he died fighting the Dominion." "I am sorry for your loss," Tae-ho said. The words felt small and useless, but he meant them. Hana looked around the workshop, taking in the broken equipment and cluttered workspace. "You need help," she said. It was not a question. "I do need help, but I cannot pay much. The work is hard, and the hours are long. I do not need much pay, I need work, I need purpose. Hana walked over to the terraforming unit and examined the open access panel. This is thermal damage in the processing core. Also cascade failure in the control circuits. 2 days' work if you know what you are doing. Taeho stared at her. She had diagnosed the problem in less than a minute. How do you know so much about terraforming equipment? My husband designed atmospheric processors on Corvin Prime before the Dominion destroyed our world. I helped him with his work for many years. Before Taeho could respond, the door opened again. This time, a much smaller figure entered. She had 4 arms and skin that seemed to shimmer with a faint blue glow. Her movements were precise and controlled. Like a surgeon or a dancer, I am Nari, she said. I also saw your job posting. I have medical training, but I know how to repair biosystems and life support equipment. 2 aliens in one evening. Taeho wondered what he had gotten himself into. The door opened a 3rd time before he could say anything. A woman entered who looked almost human except for the gills on her neck and the slightly blue tint to her skin. Behind her came 2 more figures. One had crystalline growths covering parts of her body that caught the workshop lights and threw rainbow patterns on the walls. The other looked entirely human except for her eyes, which seemed to glow with a soft purple light. We all came together, said the one with gills. I am Leah. This is Yuki and Mira. We saw your job posting and we need work. Taeho looked at the 5 alien women crowding his small workshop. All of them looked tired and worn down by whatever they had been through. But their eyes showed intelligence and determination. They had come here seeking honest work, not charity. Ladies, he said slowly. I only posted that job ad this morning. I was looking for 1 helper, not 5. I do not have room or resources for all of you. Mira, the one with the glowing purple eyes, stepped forward. She had not spoken yet, but when she did, her voice seemed to echo inside his head as well as his ears. We know you cannot pay us much, she said. We know this is not the best job or the best place, but we have nowhere else to go. The war took everything from us except our skills. We can help you build something here if you give us a chance. Taeho looked at each of their faces, 5 strangers, from different worlds united by loss and hope. Maybe this was exactly what New Busan needed. Not just another human business, but something new. Something that showed the galaxy what peace could look like. All right, he said. We will try this together. But I warn you, the work is hard and I do not know if this business will survive. Yuki smiled and her crystalline growth seemed to pulse brighter. We are used to hard work, she said. And we are very good at making broken things work again. Outside the workshop windows, the orange sun was setting over New Busan. 5 alien widows had answered a simple job posting, and Taeho had a feeling his quiet life was about to become much more complicated. The next morning brought chaos to Taeho's small world. He woke up to the sound of rushing water and electrical sparking coming from downstairs. His apartment above the workshop had never felt smaller as he rushed down to see what was happening. Leah stood in the middle of the workshop floor surrounded by puddles of water. Her gills flapped rapidly as she tried to breathe in the dry air. The water seemed to move around her feet in small waves, even though there was no current. I am sorry, she said when she saw Taeho. I needed water, but your pipes are too small. I tried to increase the flow. The main water line had burst near the wall. Water sprayed everywhere while sparks flew from a damaged electrical panel nearby. Nari stood near the panel with all 4 of her arms raised. Blue electricity danced between her fingers as she tried to control the power flow. Do not touch anything. Metal, Nari called out. My bioelectricity is unstable when I am nervous. I might shock someone by accident. Yuki knelt beside the terraforming unit they had been working on yesterday. Her crystalline growths pulsed with bright light as she interfaced directly with the machine's computer systems. But the light was too intense. Mira sat in the corner, with her hands pressed against her temples. Please make the light dimmer, Mira said. Her voice sounded strained. My telepathic abilities are sensitive to certain frequencies. The crystal resonance is giving me a terrible headache. Hana tried to help by moving some of the heavier equipment away from the water. But her stone-like strength was too much for the delicate machinery. A diagnostic scanner cracked in her hands with a sound like breaking glass. I am sorry, she said, looking at the broken pieces. I forgot how fragile human-made equipment can be. Taeho stood in his doorway watching 5 of the most qualified technicians he had ever met accidentally destroy his workshop. Water everywhere, sparks flying, equipment breaking. His head started to hurt almost as much as Mira's. "Everyone stop," he called out. "Just stop moving for a minute." The 5 women froze where they were. The only sounds were dripping water and the hum of damaged electronics. Taeho took a deep breath and tried to think clearly. He had agreed to help these women because they had skills he needed, but those same skills were causing more problems than they solved. "Okay," he said. "We need to figure out how to work together without destroying everything. Leah, you need more water access. There is an old maintenance room in the back with larger pipes you can set up there." Leah nodded gratefully and headed toward the back room. The water around her feet seemed to follow her as she walked. "Nari, your electricity interferes with our diagnostic equipment, but we have some old mechanical tools that do not use electronics. You can work with those until we figure out better." Shielding. Nari pulled her arms close to her body to contain the bioelectric field. "I will be very careful," she promised. "Yuki, we need your computer interface abilities, but the light hurts Mira. Can you reduce the intensity?" Yuki looked at her crystalline growths and concentrated. The pulsing light dimmed to a soft glow. "Is this better?" she asked Mira. "Much better," Mira replied. Her headache was already fading. "Hana, you have incredible strength, but you need to be more gentle with delicate equipment. Maybe you can handle the heavy structural work while the others do the precision repairs." Hana nodded. "I understand. I will be the muscle while they are the brains." They spent the rest of the morning cleaning up the water damage and sorting out workspace arrangements. It was not perfect, but it was better. Each woman found ways to use her abilities without interfering with the others. By afternoon, they were ready to tackle their first real job together. Park Jin-woo, the colony administrator, arrived with bad news and good news. "The bad news is that our main atmospheric processor broke down last night," he said. "The one that handles air production for the entire colony. If we cannot fix it in 72 hours, people will start having breathing problems." "What is the good news?" Taeho asked. "The good news is that if you can fix it, I can pay triple your normal rate. The Colony Council approved emergency funds. But if you fail, we will have to bring in a repair crew from the inner worlds. That will cost us most of our annual budget." Taeho looked at the 5 women who had become his partners overnight. An atmospheric processor was 10 times more complex than the terraforming unit they had been working on. It would normally require a full engineering team from a major corporation. "We will take the job," he said. Park Jin-woo looked surprised. "Are you sure you can handle something this big? No offense, but yesterday you were a one-man operation." "Yesterday I was alone," Taeho replied. "Today I have the best team on New Busan." After Park Jin-woo left, they walked over to examine the atmospheric processor. The machine was enormous. It stood 3 stories tall and stretched across half a city block. Pipes and conduits connected it to every building in the colony. Warning signs covered its surface in multiple languages. "This is much bigger than anything I have worked on before," Hana said. Yuki approached one of the access panels and placed her hand against it. Her crystals began to glow softly as she interfaced with the computer systems. After a few minutes, she stepped back with a troubled expression. "The damage is extensive," she reported. "Multiple system failures cascading through the entire network. The main processing cores are offline. The atmospheric scrubbers are contaminated. The pressure regulators are out of calibration." "How long would it take a normal repair crew?" Taeho asked. "With standard equipment and procedures, at least 2 weeks," she replied. "Maybe longer. We have 3 days," Nari pointed out. Mira closed her eyes and extended her telepathic senses toward the machine. Even non-living systems had patterns she could read. After a moment, she opened her eyes. "The machine is not just broken," she said. "It is confused. The automatic systems are fighting each other because they cannot communicate properly. If we can restore communication between the subsystems, they might be able to repair themselves." That gave Taeho an idea. "What if we do not try to fix everything at once? What if we work as a team with each person handling what she does best?" Yuki. could interface with the computer systems and restore communication. Nari could use her bioelectricity to power systems that had lost power. Hana could handle the heavy mechanical repairs. Leah could flush contaminated coolant lines with clean water. Mira could coordinate everything telepathically so they all worked in perfect sync. It was crazy. It was impossible. It was their only chance. They spent the evening planning their approach and gathering supplies. None of them had ever attempted anything this ambitious before. But as they worked together preparing for the challenge ahead, something started to change between them. They were no longer five strangers thrown together by circumstance. They were becoming a team, maybe even a family. The sun set over New Busan, painting the sky in shades of orange and red. Tomorrow they would find out if their partnership could save the colony or if they had taken on more than they could handle. Either way, they would face it together. The atmospheric processor hummed like a sleeping giant in the early morning light. Taeho and his team gathered around the main control panel as the first shift of colonists headed to their jobs. Nobody mentioned the growing staleness in the air, but everyone could feel it. "We have 60 hours left," Taeho said, checking his watch. "The Colony Council is already talking about evacuation procedures if we fail." Yuki placed both hands on the central computer interface. Her crystalline growths began to pulse with steady light as she connected her nervous system directly to the machine's data networks. After several minutes, her eyes snapped open. "I can see the entire system now," she announced. "It is like a giant body with a broken nervous system. The brain cannot talk to the arms and legs, so everything is paralyzed." "What do you need us to do?" Mira asked. Her telepathic abilities had already connected her to Yuki's thoughts, creating a mental bridge between human planning and machine logic. "First, we restore basic communication between the main processing cores," Yuki replied. "But I cannot do it alone. The data paths are too complex and some require physical repairs." Hana stepped forward. "Tell me what needs to be moved or fixed. I can handle the heavy work." "Section C7 needs new connection cables," Yuki said. "The old ones melted when the system overloaded. But they are buried under 3 tons of machinery that was never meant to be moved." For Hana, 3 tons was not a problem. She made her way to Section C7 and began carefully lifting massive components that would have required industrial equipment for human workers. Her stone-like strength made the impossible look easy. Nari followed behind her with replacement cables and tools. Where human engineers would need powered equipment, she provided electricity directly from her own body. Her 4 arms allowed her to work on multiple connections at once while monitoring system responses in real time. Meanwhile, Leah had discovered something important in the filtration systems. The atmospheric scrubbers were not just contaminated, they were completely clogged with a strange crystalline residue that had formed when the processors overheated. "This is not ordinary contamination," she called out from inside one of the massive filter housings. "The crystals have grown into the metal itself. We cannot just clean them out." "Can you dissolve them?" Taeho asked. Leah extended her water manipulation abilities to analyze the crystal structure. Her people had dealt with similar mineral formations in the deep oceans of her home world. "I can break them down," she said. "But I need to change the water chemistry and apply precise pressure. It will take time." "We have time," Mira assured her. "The main processing cores will take hours to repair anyway." As the day progressed, they fell into a natural rhythm. Yuki diagnosed problems and guided repairs from the central interface. Mira coordinated their efforts telepathically so they could work on different parts of the massive system without getting in each other's way. Hana handled anything that required brute strength. Nari provided power and worked on the delicate electronic systems. Leah solved fluid dynamics problems that had stumped the original engineers. During a brief lunch break, they sat together in the shade of the processor, sharing simple food that Taeho had brought from his apartment. For the first time since they had met, the previous day conversation turned to their personal lives. "My husband died on Corvin Prime when the Dominion cracked our planet's crust," Hana said quietly. "He was trying to evacuate the deep city settlements when the surface collapsed. 10 million people lived in those cities." Nari touched Hana's arm with one of her hands. "My family was on a medical transport ship heading for the outer colonies. The Dominion targeted civilian ships in the final weeks of the war. They said they wanted to break our will to fight. My homeworld was mostly ocean, Leah added. The Dominion poisoned our seas with industrial chemicals. My husband died trying to purify the water systems. I was the only survivor from our research station. Yuki's crystals dimmed as painful memories surfaced. My people lived in the asteroid mining belts. We thought we were safe because our settlements were so scattered. But the Dominion hunted us down one station at a time. My husband bought me time to escape by staying behind to fight. Mira had been quiet during the others' stories. Finally, she spoke. My husband was a diplomat. He believed we could find a peaceful solution even when the war turned brutal. The Dominion killed him during peace negotiations just to send a message. I felt him die through our telepathic bond. Tejo listened to their stories with growing anger and sadness. He had fought in the war, but mostly against military targets. He had not seen the systematic destruction of civilian populations that these women had experienced. Why did you come to human space, he asked. You could have gone anywhere after the war ended. Because humans do something different, Mira replied. You do not just fight to win. You fight to protect others even when they are not your own species. My husband believed that humans represented the best hope for lasting peace in the galaxy. Also, Yuki added with a slight smile, humans are the only species crazy enough to think 5 alien widows can fix an atmospheric processor in 3 days. They returned to work with renewed determination. The afternoon brought breakthrough after breakthrough. Yuki successfully restored communication between the main processing cores. Hana completed the mechanical repairs ahead of schedule. Nari had the electrical systems running at full capacity. Leah finished dissolving the crystal contamination in the scrubbers. By evening, the atmospheric processor was humming with life again. Clean air flowed through the colony's distribution network. The staleness that had been building all day began to clear. Park Jinwoo arrived just as they were running final diagnostics. He looked amazed as he read the system status reports. All parameters are not just normal. They are better than normal, he said. How did you improve the efficiency ratings? We did not just fix the broken parts, Yuki explained. We optimized the entire system. The original design had bottlenecks that limited performance. This is incredible, Jinwoo said. The Colony Council will be very pleased. But more than that, you have probably attracted some attention from off-world. Work like this does not go unnoticed. After Jinwoo left, the team stood together looking at their accomplishment. The massive atmospheric processor that had seemed impossible to repair yesterday was now running better than ever. We make a good team, Hana said. The best team, Taiho agreed. But as he spoke, he noticed a black transport ship landing at the colony's main spaceport. Ships like that usually brought corporate executives or government officials. He had a feeling their success was about to bring complications they were not prepared for. In the distance, the new arrivals were already making inquiries about the repair team that had accomplished the impossible in just 2 days. The black transport ship brought trouble in expensive suits. 3 corporate executives from Stellar Dynamics Corporation walked through New Busan like they owned the place. Their leader was a cold woman named Im Soo-jin, who spoke with the authority of someone used to getting her way. Taeho watched them through his workshop window as they visited the colony administration building. Jinwoo met them at the entrance looking nervous and uncomfortable. Corporate visits usually meant someone was about to lose their job or their business. We should be careful, Mira said. Her telepathic abilities could sense hostile intentions from across the colony. Those people are not here to congratulate us on our success. What do they want? Hana asked. She was moving heavy equipment with her usual care, but Taeho could see the tension in her stone-like features. Before anyone could answer, the workshop door opened. But instead of corporate executives, a different kind of trouble walked in. Councilman Cho Byung-hoon entered with 3 other colony council members. Cho had never liked aliens and made no secret of his views. Kim Taeho, we need to talk, Cho said. His voice carried the tone of someone delivering an ultimatum. What can I do for you? Councilman Taeho replied. He positioned himself between Cho and his alien teammates. The council has been discussing your recent business arrangements, Cho continued. Some people are concerned about the security implications of having so many unregistered aliens working. On critical colony infrastructure. They are not unregistered, Tejo said firmly. I filed all the proper employment documentation yesterday. Employment documentation is one thing, Cho replied. But these beings have access to our life support systems. Our computers, our most sensitive equipment. How do we know they are not gathering intelligence for hostile forces? Yuki looked up from her workstation. Her crystalline growths pulsed with controlled anger. We are war widows, councilmen, not spies. We lost everything fighting the same enemy. You fought. That is exactly what a spy would say, Cho shot back. And your abilities are far beyond what any normal technician should possess. How do we know you are not enhanced agents sent to infiltrate human colonies? Because if we wanted to destroy your colony, we could have done it yesterday, when we had complete access to your atmospheric processor, Hana said. Her voice was calm, but her massive frame made the threat clear. The tension in the room was rising fast. Nari pulled her forearms close to her body as bioelectric energy started to dance between her fingers. Leah stepped backward toward the water lines in case she needed to defend herself. Mira's telepathic abilities were picking up hostile thoughts from all directions. Gentlemen, Tejo said loudly. I think we should discuss this somewhere private. No need to disrupt the work schedule. But Cho was not finished. The Colony Council is considering new regulations regarding alien workers, he announced. All non-human employees may need to undergo security screening and mandatory registration with colonial security forces. As if summoned by his words, Im Soo-jin and her corporate team entered the workshop. She surveyed the scene with calculating eyes before speaking. Perhaps I can offer a solution to everyone's concerns, she said. Stellar Dynamics Corporation specializes in managing alien labor resources. We could take over employment of these individuals and relocate them to our secure research facilities. Research facilities, Yuki asked. Her crystals began to glow brighter with alarm. We are very interested in studying unique abilities like yours, Im Soo-jin continued. Think of it as an opportunity to contribute to galactic scientific advancement, while earning a steady income in comfortable surroundings. What she did not say was that Stellar Dynamics had been watching them since their successful repair of the atmospheric processor. Corporate intelligence networks had flagged their unusual abilities, and now the company wanted to acquire them for weapons research and development. That sounds like slavery with extra steps, Leah said quietly. Her gills flapped with agitation as she sensed the trap closing around them. Not at all, Im Soo-jin replied smoothly. It would be a standard corporate employment contract. Housing, medical care, and steady pay in exchange for your cooperation with our research projects. And if we refuse, Mira asked. Her telepathic abilities were reading the true intentions behind the polite words. Well, Im Soo-jin smiled coldly. Colonial. Regulations regarding unregistered alien workers can be quite strict. Councilman Cho has been very helpful in explaining the legal complexities. The setup became clear. Stellar Dynamics had been manipulating events from the beginning. They had stirred up anti-alien sentiment through Cho and his supporters. They had probably even guided the 5 widows to New Busan in the first place, knowing their abilities would eventually be exposed. Now they were offering a choice that was not really a choice. Submit to corporate control or face deportation and separation under colonial security laws. I need time to consider your offer, Tejo said. Of course, Im Soo-jin replied. But please, do not take too long. Colonial regulations can be enforced quite quickly when necessary. After the corporate team left, Cho lingered for a moment. I am sorry it has come to this, Tejo, he said. But the Colony Council has to think about security first. These aliens are too dangerous to remain unsupervised. They saved our entire colony just yesterday, Tejo pointed out. Which proves how dangerous they are. Cho replied. What if next time they decide to help our enemies instead of us? When everyone had finally left, the workshop fell into heavy silence. The 5 alien women looked at each other with expressions of familiar despair. They had seen this pattern before on other worlds. Fear and suspicion driving away those who only wanted to help. So what do we do now? Hana asked. Run again, and hope the next world treats us better. No, Yuki said firmly. Her crystals pulsed with determination instead of fear. I am tired of running. We have done nothing wrong and we have proved our worth. If they want a fight, we should give them one. We cannot fight the entire colonial government and a major corporation, Leah pointed out. Maybe we cannot, Mira said thoughtfully. But we are not the only ones who have been helped by human kindness. There are others in this colony who remember what we accomplished. Tae-ho looked at his unlikely family. 5 alien widows who had lost everything once already, and were now facing the same choice again. Run or fight, hide or stand their ground. Tomorrow Im-soo-jin would return with legal documents and security forces. But tonight, they still had time to decide what kind of people they wanted to be. Outside the workshop windows, the lights of New Busan twinkled under the alien stars. Somewhere in those lights were colonists breathing clean air because 5 strangers had refused to give up when things seemed impossible. The question was whether those same colonists would stand with them when the real test came. Im-soo-jin returned the next morning with a dozen corporate security officers and a stack of legal documents. She did not bother to knock before entering the workshop with her armed escort. "Ladies," she announced, "I have your relocation orders here. Stellar Dynamics Corporation has been granted emergency custody of unregistered alien workers under Colonial Security Statute 847. You have 10 minutes to gather your personal belongings." Tae-ho stepped forward. "You cannot just take them. They are legal employees with proper work permits. Permits that are now suspended pending security review." Im-soo-jin replied. She handed him an official document with multiple government seals. Everything has been processed through proper channels. The security officers spread out through the workshop. They wore full combat gear and carried weapons designed to handle dangerous alien species. Their leader was a scarred veteran who looked like he had seen too much combat. "This does not have to be difficult," he said to the 5 women. "Cooperate and nobody gets hurt. Resist and we have authorization to use necessary force. Necessary force against war widows who fixed your life support system," Hana said. Her voice carried the weight of someone who had faced worse odds before. "We know what you really are," Im-soo-jin said. "Military-grade enhanced operatives posing as refugees. Your abilities are far beyond normal parameters for your species. Stellar Dynamics has extensive files on your combat capabilities." She was partially right. The 5 women were not ordinary refugees. They were the surviving widows of elite military units. Each possessed abilities that made her a strategic asset, in the right hands or a terrible weapon in the wrong ones. But what Im-soo-jin did not understand was that they had chosen to be something else. They had chosen to heal instead of hurt, to build instead of destroy. "We will not go with you," Yuki said. Her crystalline growths began to pulse with dangerous light. "We have found a home here, and we will not be separated again." "You do not have a choice," Im-soo-jin replied. "Resist and you will be classified as hostile aliens and dealt with accordingly." That was when the workshop door burst open. Jin-woo, the colony administrator, rushed in, followed by a dozen angry colonists. Behind them came more people. Farmers whose crops grew better because of the atmospheric processor repairs. Engineers who had learned new techniques from watching the alien women work. Families whose children breathed easier because 5 strangers had refused to give up. "What is the meaning of this?" Jin-woo demanded. "These women are heroes, not criminals. They are unregistered aliens with dangerous capabilities," Im-soo-jin shot back. "Colonial security takes priority over local sentiment." "Colonial security," my foot said, an old farmer named Lee Dong-woo. "These ladies saved our whole settlement. You corporate vultures just want to steal them away and turn them into weapons." More colonists kept arriving until the workshop was packed with angry humans. They had heard about the attempted seizure and come to stand with their protectors. Children pressed forward to touch Hana's stone-like skin or watch Yuki's crystals glow. These were not dangerous aliens to them. These were the women who had made their world safer. "Stand aside," Im-soo-jin ordered. "You are interfering with a lawful corporate operation." "Lawful does not mean right," Jin-woo replied. "The Colony Council is calling an emergency session to review these orders. Until then, these women remain under our protection." The security team leader looked uncertain. He had been prepared to handle 5 isolated aliens, not 5 aliens surrounded by dozens of angry colonists, including children and elderly people. "Sir," he said to Im Soo-jin, "we might want to reconsider our approach. This situation could get messy." But Im Soo-jin was not backing down. She had invested too much corporate money and political capital in this operation. Mess or no mess, she intended to complete her mission. "Clear these people out," she ordered. "Use whatever force is necessary." That was when the 5 alien women made their choice. They could fight, they could run, or they could trust in the humans who had offered them sanctuary. Mira stepped forward and spoke directly into everyone's mind using her telepathic abilities. She shared the memories of her husband's death during peace negotiations, the systematic destruction of her home world, the long journey to find a place where her people could heal instead of hide. Nari let her bioelectric field expand, showing the colonists exactly how much power she contained and how carefully she controlled it to avoid hurting anyone. The dancing, electricity spelled out words in the air. "We choose peace." Leah demonstrated her water manipulation by creating beautiful flowing patterns that cooled the crowded room and carried the scent of ocean flowers from her destroyed home world. "This is what we lost," she seemed to say. "This is what we hope to build again." Yuki connected her crystalline neural system to the workshop's computer network and projected holographic images of her husband's final battle against the Dominion forces. The images showed him buying time for civilian transports to escape while his mining station exploded around him. "We know what sacrifice means," her crystals pulsed. Hana simply picked up one of the security officer's weapons and bent it into a pretzel shape with her bare hands before gently placing it back in his shocked grasp. "We could fight," she said quietly. "But we choose not to." The message was clear. These 5 women possessed the power to level the entire colony if they wanted to, but they had chosen to use that power to heal and protect instead. They were exactly what humanity claimed to represent, at its best. The choice to be better than your worst impulses. Im Soo-jin realized she had lost control of the situation. The colonists were not going to stand aside. Her security team was outnumbered and facing powered individuals who had just demonstrated they could disable weapons with ease. Worse, her corporate bosses were watching through surveillance feeds and would not be pleased with this public relations disaster. "This is not over," she announced. "Stellar Dynamics will pursue this matter through proper legal channels. These aliens will eventually be brought under corporate supervision." She led her security team out of the workshop, but everyone knew she would be back with better preparation and more resources. The battle was won, but the war was just beginning. The crowd dispersed, the 5 alien women found themselves surrounded by new friends and neighbors, people who had chosen to stand with them despite the risks, people who embodied the human ideals that had drawn them to seek sanctuary in human space. "Thank you," Tai-ho said to the gathered colonists. "You did not have to put yourselves at risk. For us?" "Yes, we did," Jinwoo replied. "Because that is who we choose to be. And that is who we want our children to grow up to be." Outside the workshop, Im Soo-jin was already making plans for her return. Next time, she would not underestimate the bonds between humans and their alien allies. 3 months later, Tai-ho stood in front of his expanded workshop watching the morning shift change at what everyone now called Widow Works. The small repair shop had grown into the colony's primary engineering center. 5 alien women had become the foundation of New Busan's prosperity. Yuki emerged from the quantum fabrication lab, where she had been working on impossible projects that human engineers said could not be done. Her crystalline interfaces allowed her to design technology that bridged the gap between organic and mechanical systems. Every major corporation in human space was trying to hire her away, but she had no interest in leaving her found family. Nari ran the medical engineering division, where her bioelectric abilities and forearmed dexterity made her the best surgical technician in the Outer Rim. Refugees came from dozens of worlds seeking treatment that only she could provide. Her husband would have been proud to see her healing arts bringing hope to so many wounded people. Hana supervised the heavy construction projects that were transforming New Busan from a frontier outpost into a real city. Her strength and engineering knowledge made impossible builds routine. She was currently designing a memorial garden for all the war victims whose sacrifices had made peace possible. Leah managed the environmental systems that kept the colony's air and water pure. Her understanding of fluid dynamics had improved every system she touched. The atmospheric processor that had nearly killed the colony now ran at 150% efficiency and provided surplus power to neighboring settlements. Mira coordinated everything through her telepathic network. She could link the minds of engineers working on complex projects, allowing instant communication and perfect synchronization. Her diplomatic skills had also made her the unofficial ambassador between the colony and visiting alien refugees. The morning briefing brought mixed news as always. Good news was that 3 more alien families had requested sanctuary in New Busan. The colony's reputation for accepting refugees was spreading throughout the outer rim. Bad news was that Stellar Dynamics Corporation was still trying to find legal ways to seize the 5 women. They have filed 17 different lawsuits, Jinwoo reported. Patent infringement, technology theft, unlawful competition. Their lawyers are very creative. Let them file 100 lawsuits, Taeho replied. We have the best legal team money can buy, and more importantly, we have the truth on our side. The truth was that Stellar Dynamics had been exposed as manipulative profiteers who saw alien refugees only as resources to exploit. Public opinion throughout human space had turned against them after recordings of their attempted seizure spread across the galactic network. More importantly, the 5 women had attracted allies from unexpected places. Other war widows had come forward to share their stories. Veterans from multiple species had joined their cause. Even some humans who had initially been suspicious now openly supported them. The memorial service this afternoon will have delegates from 12 different worlds, Jinwoo continued, including 3 species that have never sent representatives to human space before. That was the most significant development. What had started as 5 desperate women seeking work had grown into something much larger, a symbol of what peace could look like when former enemies chose cooperation over conflict. The memorial garden Hana had designed was more than just a monument to the war dead. It was a living testament to the choice between destruction and creation. Plants from dozens of different worlds grew together in harmony, just as their people were learning to do. Taeho walked through the garden as preparations continued for the afternoon ceremony. Each section honored the victims from different worlds, while celebrating the survivors who had chosen to build rather than seek revenge. At the center stood a fountain designed by Leah that used water from 13 different oceans to create patterns that told the story of loss and hope. The ceremony itself drew thousands of beings from across the local sector. Humans stood beside. Former enemies as speakers shared memories of loved ones lost to the war, but the focus was not on blame or anger. It was on the choice to create a future worthy of those sacrifices. When Mira stepped forward to speak, she used her telepathic abilities to share not just words but emotions and memories. Everyone present felt the pain of loss, but also the warmth of healing. The determination to ensure that such suffering never happened again. We are all war widows, she said. Human and alien alike, we have all lost something precious to conflict and hatred, but we have also found something precious in each other, the courage to trust strangers, the wisdom to see strength in diversity, the hope that broken things can be made whole again. Her words were translated into dozens of languages, but the emotion behind them needed no translation. In the crowd, former soldiers from opposing sides wept together. Children who had never known their parents because of the war played together in the memorial gardens. After the ceremony ended, Taeho found himself alone with his 5 partners. They sat together on the workshop steps, watching the sunset paint the sky in familiar orange and red. New Busan had grown around them, but this spot remained their anchor point. Do you ever regret answering that job posting, he asked. Never, Hana replied. Even when things were hardest, I never regretted coming here. My husband told me once that home is not a place you find, Mira added. It is something you build with people who care about you. We have built something good here. Yuki's crystals pulsed with soft contentment. On my world, we believed that broken crystals could never be repaired. But human engineers taught me about kintsukuroi, the art of mending broken things with gold so they become more beautiful than they were before. That is what happened to us, Nari said. We came here broken by war and loss. But we mended each other with friendship and purpose. Now we are stronger and more beautiful than we ever were alone. Leah smiled and gestured toward the bustling colony around them. And we are still growing. Every refugee we help, every impossible project we complete, every bridge we build between former enemies makes us stronger. A transport ship was landing at the spaceport, bringing more hopeful refugees seeking sanctuary. Among them would be engineers and doctors and teachers whose skills could benefit everyone. But they would also bring trauma and fear and the desperate hope that this place might be different from all the others that had turned them away. Tomorrow, Widow Works would begin its expansion into a full refugee integration center. The 5 alien women who had answered a simple job posting would train other survivors to use their abilities for healing instead of warfare. Their success had proved that former enemies could become family if given the chance. Stellar Dynamics was still plotting their return, but they faced a different situation now. 5 isolated aliens had become 5 protected citizens surrounded by an entire community that would fight to defend them. More than that, they had become symbols of hope for refugees throughout the galaxy. As the stars came out over New Busan, Taiho updated his job posting one final time, seeking experienced specialists for impossible projects. Room, board, and family provided. Previous military experience preferred. We know how to beat swords into plowshares. All species welcome. Apply in person at Widow Works New Busan. Beneath it, in 5 different alien scripts, the widows had added their own message. Home is not a place you find. It is something you build with people who will not let you fight alone. The advertisement would attract more desperate souls seeking a second chance, and Widow Works would be ready to welcome them with open arms and honest work and the promise that broken things could indeed be made whole again.